Thank you very much. Thank you, Bart.
Thank you.
Aloha. It's so good to be here. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Bart, for putting this together and for welcoming us all to your home. It's been great meeting your mom and your sister, your family. I respect, my sister's here tonight. I'm grateful to have her with me on this campaign. That was one of the first things that Bart pointed out to me was his sister. You're in the Navy Reserves, Bart. His sister is Lieutenant Colonel in the Army National Guard here in Iowa. And Bart's basically like, my sister's way cooler than you, and she outranks you, and she could make you do push-ups if she wanted to. I can read between the lines. We have a lot of guards, men and women, or those serving the reserves, currently or former. Can you just raise your hands? Veterans. Thank you, guys. I feel like I'm home. I'm amongst family, and thank you so much for coming and spending the evening here with us. I want to say a few other quick thank yous. Nicole Miles is the co-host for tonight. There she is. Thank you both. Nicole and Bart, we met them because they came to a town hall that we had in Cedar Rapids a few weeks ago at Ray Gun, and when we asked them, all right, we're gonna put you to work, hosting a house party. That's how tonight came about. Bart's mom, Debbie, is one of the amazing cooks who is feeding us here tonight. Where's Debbie? Okay, there she is, Thank you so much, Debbie. And Dina made the pumpkin bars. Is Dina here? Oh, that's your sister. Oh, okay, sorry. And what about Josh, who helped make some vegetarian chili? There he is. Thank you very much. My mom also helped with some of the vegetarian chili. They're in town, and so thanks to you both for being inclusive, giving us a healthy option here. And last but not least, I want to thank the Boot Jack duo, Jen and John, who have been singing for us tonight. Where did they go? They're here. There they are. They're getting some food. Amazing. Thank you so much. And Boot Jack duo, Jen and John, are here because of our good friend, Steve Cook, and his partner, Kirk, who take care of our audio. Yeah, there you go. Good high five. Thank you guys so much. Thank you. Steve always plays Jack Johnson music at the end of all of our town halls normally because he knows I like Jack Johnson. But somebody told him I like country music, so I was really excited about our musicians here tonight. Okay, before I start, if you will indulge me, we have a very special guest here joining us tonight. And there is never not a good time to hear the wise words of Abraham Lincoln.
Thank you, Congresswoman. In the fall of 1860, I was pondering the nature of our democracy, and I wrote this. Under the Constitution of the United States, every 4 years another presidential contest approaches us. We, the people, assemble all over this broad land to decide the course which we should follow. We must give this careful consideration, must first know where we are and whither we are tending, so that we may best decide what to do and how to do it. The will of the people, constitutionally expressed, is the ultimate law for all. By the frame of government under which we live, we the people have wisely given our public servants but little power for mischief, and have, with equal wisdom, provided for the return of that little to our own hands at very short intervals. So long as the people maintain their virtue and diligence, no one administration can seriously damage the country in the short span of 4 years. Well, my friends, We were wrong. One short administration has seriously damaged our country, and here we're gathered to work on putting an end to it and sending this woman to 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Congresswoman,
Thank you.
Well, if that's not the greatest endorsement ever, I don't know what is. Thank you so much, Lance. Very, very powerful words spoken to every single one of us. This just happens. I didn't know he was coming this evening, but I'm so grateful that you and your wife decided to come and join us, allowing us all the opportunity to reflect on Abraham Lincoln's leadership and the inspiring words that he's shared with all of us as a country that we need now during such divided times. I'm going to open with just some brief remarks, and I want to hear what's on your minds and answer any questions you have. I was able to talk to a few of you beforehand, but I want to start with, where's Aaron? Question that you were asking about, right? How do we bridge the divides in this country? How do we achieve this governance that Abraham Lincoln laid out for us in his Gettysburg Address? That we stand united as Americans, committed to this proposition of equality and justice for all, fighting for and protecting the principles and freedoms enshrined in our Constitution, and honoring the sacrifice of so many who have laid down their lives for our democracy, for our rights, for our freedoms, to ensure that our leadership, our government is truly a government of, by, and for the people. Of, by, and for the people. But this is not what we have. This is not what we have. Unfortunately, we've got a government of, by, and for the rich and powerful, and we the people get left behind. We the people struggle as a result. There is hardship and there is pain that comes about as a result. And this is where the words that you just shared, sir, about the responsibility that every one of us has, and one that we must take seriously, to ensure that leaders in our government and the President of the United States is acting in the best interest of the people in our country, motivated by this desire to be of service, bringing these principles of service above self to the White House. This is at the heart of what is motivating me to run for president, to bring those principles back to the presidency, restoring honor and integrity and respect, ensuring that our White House is truly the beacon of light and hope and equality and opportunity that it should be. Because we, the American people, we deserve a president that will put the well-being of our people. I saw that. Just threw some gasoline on the fire or something. Okay. We deserve to have a president who will put the interests of people, the American people, ahead of profits, corporate profits, special interests, who will put the interests of our people ahead of the hyper-partisan politics that we see are tearing our country apart, who will make every decision about policy, decisions that are made in the White House, the negotiations that will occur between the presidency and Congress, centered around that context of what is in the best interest of our people and our country. This is how we begin to overcome these divides. This is how we begin to bring back those values that we hold dear, so that your son, how old is he? 11 years old, will have something to look forward to and something to be proud of about who we are as a country. And only we are the ones who can make that change. I want to share a quote with you that you probably have never heard before, because it's not very well known, but this is from Dr. Martin Luther King. When we talk about divides, we talk about our country being torn apart, well, he knew a little bit about that. back during his era and his time of leadership, at a time when our country was also extremely divided, when we were seeing acts of violence and racism in very extreme ways, and extreme obstacles going towards that proposition, achieving that proposition of equality and justice. Well, he visited Hawaii back in 1959, and he experienced what we in Hawaii call the Aloha spirit. Here in Hawaii, here in Iowa, you call it Iowa nice.
Yeah.
But in Hawaii, we call it Aloha, and it's more than just hello or goodbye. What Aloha really means is I come to you with respect. It's a recognition that we are all connected. We are all God's children. We're all brothers and sisters. And when we recognize that, when we engage with each other based on that foundation, we can begin to heal those divisive wounds. We recognize, what do we do for those that we love, that we care about? What do we do for our family? We fight for them. We want the best for them. We want to be able to figure out that even if we have different ideas about different issues, we can come together in a respectful manner, in a civil manner, and talk through them. Find our way through, find those areas of common interest and common ground. So Dr. King experienced this in Hawaii, and he gave a speech before our state legislature where he said, and I quote, "We look to you for inspiration as a noble example where you have already accomplished in the area of racial harmony and racial justice what we are struggling to accomplish in other sections of the country. And you can never know what it means to those of us caught for the moment in the tragic and often dark midnight of man's inhumanity to man, to come to a place where we see the glowing daybreak of freedom and dignity and racial justice." Now, Hawaii is the most diverse state in the nation. We have people from all over the world, people of all different races, ethnicities, religions, all different cultures and backgrounds. And in some places, you might think that would be a recipe for conflict, you know, of tribalism, of one group against the other, one race against the other, one group of immigrants from one country against the other. But that's not what we have. We have a beautiful community of this melting pot of cultures that really centers around the Aloha spirit that Dr. King experienced when he was there. And when he returned back to the mainland after that visit, he shared with those who he was speaking with, "As I looked at all of those various faces and various colors mingled together like the waters of the sea, I could see only one face, the face of the future." He was talking really to us. We are that face of the future. His call to action applies to every single one of us right here, right now. That call to action that says we must stand united. We must stand united as brothers and sisters, as God's children, as Americans, centered around how we can best come together, looking forward to solving problems, making sure that those actions, those decisions that we make as people, and the decisions that our leaders make are ones that are centered around service above self, putting the interests of our people and our country above all else. This is why I'm running for president, to lead this change, to bring our country together, to unify us all around those founding principles as we work to strive towards that more perfect union, where every single American truly can live free and secure and peaceful with equality and justice and opportunity for all. There's a reason why, and it's getting a little dark now, but those of you who came in a little earlier, you saw it at the table in the front. We have copies of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, pocket-sized copies for folks to take, because it's important to remember what our country is based around, the bedrock on which we stand as Americans. And we think about those freedoms and rights enshrined in these founding documents are things that we can't take for granted. And they are the things that are centering for every one of us in how we can look forward, standing on that same common ground. And when we really think about patriotism, we think about love of our country. What does that actually mean? What could be more patriotic than working for the well-being of our fellow Americans? What could be more patriotic than ensuring that we are protecting our nation, we are protecting our planet, the precious natural resources that are provided to us that allow us to live and eat good food and drink clean water and live in a safe community. And what could be more patriotic than we, the people, rising up with our voices, getting rid of this government that is of, by, and for the rich and powerful, and instead making real that vision that our founders had for us, truly having leaders who are focused on service, leaders who are of the people, by the people, and for the people. When we do this, when we use the power within our own voices and our votes, we can bring about the kind of change that we need to see, and rooting out the crony capitalism that has ruined our healthcare system, rooting out the crony capitalism that we see rampant in so many parts of our government, whether you're talking about the criminal justice system, even our education system, the military-industrial complex, the issues surrounding climate change. You know, we are still spending $30 billion every year to subsidize big fossil fuel corporations. That's our money. When really, I think we should be looking to how do we transition off of this archaic form of energy and actually investing in the future, investing in clean, renewable energy. It's good for the planet, and it is also good for our pocketbook. You know, the cost of delivering this energy from the start point of the infrastructure needs to the point of delivery is actually a lot less than what we're seeing in a lot of the fossil fuel development costs and what it ultimately costs us as consumers. When we look at so many of these issues, and I want to get to your questions to hear what's on your mind, we look at so many of these issues, we can see how they have not yet been solved. We've been talking about the same things for a long time because A, we're not getting to the root cause of it, and really it's because we've had self-serving politicians who for too long have been looking out for themselves or their own re-election, rather than actually looking out for actually doing the job that you all send us there to do. I want to open it up for questions now, and let's get the party started. Thank you. Yes, we'll start with you.
How are you going to secure the Social Security Trust Fund?
Very important question. Securing the Social Security Trust Fund. Start with two important steps. Number one, enacting a law that would prohibit the Social Security Trust Fund from being rated as a slush fund for any other reason in our government. This is something that never gets reported, really, when this happens, but we can see how over and over and over again this trust fund is eroded because it's seen as a slush fund to take money away. We'll just borrow it and use it to pay for this or pay for that. That money never gets redeposited back into that trust fund. And the second thing is to raise the cap of the income that's taxed to pay for Social Security. Really, when you look at it, those who are making more and more money stop contributing to the Social Security Fund. What is it now, about 117,000? Somewhere around there. There's no reason why that cap can't be lifted and raised so that we have more money going into this fund that will not only make sure that it's still there when I need it, or when I know we have some kids here when they need it, but that we're actually able to expand it because it's a problem that we see as the cost of living increases, housing, cost of food, cost of medicine, that for a lot of folks their Social Security benefit has been stagnant, especially those who are on SSI or disability. And so I think we've got to improve the existing Social Security system that we have and make sure that it is there for us, for those who are getting it now, and for those of us who will come after. I think it's important this Social Security is often tossed in as an entitlement program that people think should not be should or shouldn't be taken away. And this is the debate in Washington. Some people will say it's an entitlement program that we'll never be able to pay for, but they're somehow, and I don't understand how that's possible, because it's a very simple thing that anyone who has a paycheck will see how we pay into this Social Security fund every single time we get a paycheck. It's an earned benefit. We pay into this expecting that this benefit will be there for us, and our government needs to make sure that it keeps its end of the promise to do so. Yeah, we want our money back. Well said, well said. We'll come to you next. There you go.
Yeah, Tulsi, how do you propose we get big money out of politics?
Great
Pay to
question.
play.
What's that?
The pay to play.
Yeah. Ending the pay-to-play policies that we have in place right now, and they take shape in a lot of different ways. I want to use Big Pharma as an example of the ramifications of the existing pay-to-play policies, where you've got lobbyists who dangle PAC checks in front of members of Congress, who develop these relationships that span over different elections, and it buys them a seat at the table as these policies are being written. How many of you here know that our government is not allowed to negotiate lower prescription drug prices between Medicare and Big Pharma? By law, this is not allowed. Our government, meaning us as taxpayers, our government is the largest purchaser of prescription drugs in the world. In the world. So when you think about how much leverage we would have if we're sitting across the negotiating table to drive these prices down, it's extremely significant, which is why Big Pharma uses their lobbyists every time there's a bill that goes forward or an amendment that's offered or a provision in existing healthcare legislation, as the original Affordable Care Act did strip out this prohibition so that Medicare could negotiate, but somehow, magically, it was put in before the bill was finally voted on. How does that happen? It's because of the massive amount of money that Big Pharma spends on lobbyists and PAC checks, and the fact that they have purchased their way to have a seat at the table, and the influence over the politicians who are crafting the legislation, where they put that prohibition back in place, allowing Big Pharma continue to rake in incredible profits, price gouging Americans with these, hundreds, if not thousands of times price increases with these prescription drugs, and leaving sick people who actually need help or need medicine or need some of these drugs for their life, to struggle and to suffer and wonder, what do I do? Where do I go? Big Pharma as an industry spends far more on PACs and lobbyists in Washington than they do in buying commercials on television. Did you know that? I don't know, how many of you see those commercials almost every time you turn on TV? And you try to pretend like you're not listening to all those incredible side effects that are said while you have people laughing and walking along the beach and as they're talking about bleeding and all these things happening, right? But you see them all the time, and you imagine, we know from looking into buying campaign TV ads how expensive that time is. But they spend more on lobbyists buying influence in Washington than they do on those TV ads trying to convince you that their drugs are good for you. It's a government of, by, and for the rich and powerful. So that's an example. So what do we do? First of all, I think the easiest thing that we can do as voters is raise the bar and the standard for elected officials, saying that if you want our vote, you have to promise that you will not take any PAC or lobbyist money, period. And stick to it. And stick to it. We're seeing, fortunately, more and more members of Congress taking this pledge and sticking to it, even though after they get elected, after they turn a red district blue and they get congratulated by everyone in Washington, and then you have political leaders there saying, well, good, you won, but if you want to keep your seat, you got to start taking PAC and lobbyist money. Not respecting the promise that they made to the people who just voted for them. So that's number one. Number two, look, we've got to get rid of Citizens United. Citizens United continues to allow unlimited amounts of quote-unquote dark money, meaning we don't have any idea where it's coming from, whose money it is it coming from our country or another country, going and flooding the airwaves with these TV ads for or against an issue, for or against a candidate, depending on what's going on. And how do you compete with that? How do you compete with that? We've got to get that big dark money out of our politics. And one of the other things that doesn't get talked about as often is this revolving door that we have in our government between those who are in positions of power, whether they be elected officials or senior staffers, going and spending some time in public service, but only to get enough power and influence to be able to then turn that experience into a massive payout in the industry that they were supposed to be just providing oversight over or regulating. We see this in members of Congress. I think members of Congress should be barred from being lobbyists forever. Forever. Because if you choose to serve, you should go and choose to serve. I mean, if you look at our school teachers, firefighters, law enforcement officers, our military, when you choose a path of service, it's because you recognize that it's not about the money, it's about the great happiness that we get from actually serving others. Well, the same applies for those who go and work in our government, who go and work in Congress. Again, elected official or senior staffer. We had a member of Congress who had served for a number of years on the Energy and Commerce Committee in Congress, and she resigned, and I think it was within a week she announced she got a job working for an energy industry, making $1.2 or $3 million a year. That doesn't just happen, Matt. There's a reason for that. See people who come from big banks on Wall Street get appointed to positions on the SEC. Do we really believe that they're going to be regulating with our interests in mind? Or are they going to be regulating with the interests of the big banks that they already got a lot of money from in mind? So we've got to pass legislation that closes these revolving doors, not allowing those who obviously have a conflict of interest or a selfish interest in these positions of power that are supposed to be about helping and serving the people. I think there's a number of other changes we can make. I think those are three of the biggest ones. Yes, you had your hand up there in the back. Right here.
I was wondering.
What's your name?
Keely Hansen.
Thanks, Keely.
I was wondering what your view is on homeschooling.
I was homeschooled.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Does that share my view? I liked it. That's the more important thing.
Were you homeschooled from the beginning, or did you?
Pretty much. My parents are teachers by training, and so when I was really young, they actually were. There was a small private school where they taught at, and so I think it was probably first and second grade. That 5 kids in our family, and we were there going to that school. And then from that point on, the school shut down, and so my parents and some other parents in the neighborhood, they kind of pooled resources, and we were doing school in the garage for a while, and so they continued on with homeschool from there. We did correspondence courses throughout high school, and then later went to community college and then Hawaii Pacific University. And I was already, this was a little bit later on for me in life, I was already working full time and then actually deployed. So much of my bachelor's degree was done through distance learning, through online classes and taking different tests to get the college credits that I needed, some of which was done while I was in Iraq. There's a little tent that was our education tent, and they had laptops there with an internet connection that we could use. And we were facing different conditions than I would face if I was at home in my living room. But look, I attribute being able to do a lot of those studies and to be self-motivating growing up with homeschool. I had a great motivation to do my work, my schoolwork, and get it done as quickly as possible, because our parents said, look, if you do your school and you get where you need to do, where you get where you need to be, you can go to the beach and go surfing when it's done. So, if I was done by noon, I was out the door after that.
Thank Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Sorry, not sorry.
Mississippi really
I-
doesn't have good surfing.
No, unfortunately. The watercolor is a little different too. I think to your point about homeschooling though, I think there's when we look at our education system though as a whole, you know, some folks go to private schools, some go to public schools, some choose homeschooling, some go to charter schools. Really, our objective should be about how we can best provide the best education for our kids and respect the decisions that parents make for their families and for their kids. There's a lot more back when we were growing up. There really weren't a whole lot of resources now. One of the things that I had wished I had the opportunity to do was to play sports, play high school sports. And you can do that now. There's a lot of schools that bring in homeschooled athletes and they're able to play and compete in high school sports. But again, as with all of these different things we're talking about, what is our objective? Our objective is making sure our kids get a wonderful education. There's a lot of ways to do that, and we should support that choice.
Do you have a follow-up?
I believe
How old are you, by the way?
I'm 14. I'm
All
going
right.
to be 15 soon.
Awesome.
But part of I don't know what, it's something that we pay out of something, but we all have to pay for like public school. Do you believe it's fair that for those who are homeschooled or go to something that's not public school to be paying for public school even though they're not using those services?
I do. Just like, you know, the taxes that we pay go towards making sure that our firefighters have good trucks and the equipment they need. We all pay into those things, and you hope that you'll never need those services, but these are things that serve the public good. And I would say the same for education. And I would say the same for healthcare, frankly. This is some of the reform that I want to see in our healthcare system, making sure that we take big pharma and big insurance companies away from the policy-making table, not allowing that influence, and implementing basically a single payer plus program where every single one of us, we already all pay into Medicare right now. Every single one of us would pay into our health care plan that every single American already automatically would have access to. And if folks want to go, just like with education, if you want to go to a private school or if you want to do something else, if you want to get private insurance or supplementary insurance or something else, you have the freedom and the ability to do so.
Thank you.
Last question.
Thank you.
Who wants the last question?
So one of the things.
Introduce yourself,
Yeah,
please.
I'm Rob Hogue, State Senator. First of all, welcome to Senate District 33, everybody. And thank you, Congresswoman, for being
Thank
here.
you.
I want to follow up on Don's question about the big money.
Yep.
Right now, if you watch television in this media market, you're seeing ads attacking Dave Loebsack, who's retiring, and
Wow.
attacking Abby Finkenauer, and claiming that Democrats are do nothing, and I don't know if they're dark money ads or just Republican National Committee ads.
Yeah.
Or the RNC, but it's a problem because I mean we're sitting here
Yeah.
long way from election and
Yeah.
they're just spending gobs of money to attack people. So part of it is that money issue, but also part of it is what's your response to the allegation that Democrats are do nothing in Congress right now? How do you what has been going on, and how can Democrats, including our presidential candidates, message that better?
This my own personal view is that rather than throw fuel on that fire and saying, well, hey, look, Democrats are so much better than Republicans because look at all the stuff we're doing. And the House we've passed a lot of legislation and a lot of important legislation. But we also have to be honest with ourselves that when the tables were turned, there were Democrats who were running those ads against those Republican incumbents saying they're a do-nothing Republican Congress and why aren't they serving the American people? And I believe that voters see right through this and they see these ads, whether they have the RNC or the DNC coming after it saying, all right, there's another bunch of politicians who are just saying whatever they need to do to keep their power, which is the problem ultimately with our system where we have two political parties who have an incredible amount of power given the almost unlimited amount of money that they're able to raise from people. and how they use that money to further their own political power and interests rather than serving as really facilitators for our democracy and for us to have real civil dialogue and being able to come together. Not always just looking for the next election, not just looking for the next political weapon, but actually saying you and I can disagree on issues, but hey, let's focus on what we can agree on. I think changing the conversation, because you can point to, hey, here's a list of the bills that Congress has passed, and here's how they are important for you and your family. But my fear is that people they're not even able to hear that, because like, okay, of course you're going to say that. You're a Democrat. We've got to change the conversation towards one that is actually getting past the hyper-partisanship and actually just focusing on the real issues and being honest, even when it's our own party that's playing these tricks and playing these games. I want to close on an issue, given there are many veterans here, and it's an issue that's important to me, and really it's central to my campaign and why I'm running for president. And that issue is the cost of war, and how our foreign policy decisions are at the heart, at the center of every single other issue that we face. We've talked how it impacts some of these different issues, but for us, for those of us who've served, and we have veterans here from different generations, those of us who are continuing to serve, this hits home in a very personal way, where we think of and remember always those who we served with who never made that trip home with us. We think of some of our friends who did make that trip home, but who were facing some struggles in life, in making that transition and getting back to a place where there is some sense of normalcy. When we talk about the cost of war, it is something that extends far beyond those of us who have or continue to wear the uniform. It extends to every single American, every single one of us, and the taxpayer dollars that we are paying. And when we think about all these different needs that we have, and how many times we were told by politicians, there's just not enough money to make sure that every American has quality health care. There's not enough money to make sure that perfect. Okay. Where is our money going? I think that's really the point. If it's not going to making sure we have clean water to drink, to make sure that we've got great health care for every American who needs it, if it's not going to make sure that our kids are getting a great education, then where is it going? Outward. It is going to pay for these wasteful, counterproductive regime change wars that we've been seeing waged now for so long, over $6 trillion just since 9/11 alone. Going to pay for these wars that have cost us so tremendously in human lives, that have undermined our national security. You see terrorist groups like ISIS and Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is stronger now than when they attacked us on 9/11. And now we're seeing more of our money going towards this new Cold War and arms race, nuclear arms race that is come about with ever-increasing tensions between the United States and nuclear-armed countries like Russia and China, pushing us to this point where nuclear strategists, they're sounding the warning bells, saying that we are closer to the brink of nuclear catastrophe than we ever have been before. Nuclear catastrophe, that means this whole planet is gone. You know, the nuclear weapons that exist today and that are being built, these are far more powerful than the ones that we saw dropped during World War II in Japan. It's almost difficult to conceive of this existential threat, but it is here, and it is present. We had a huge wake-up call in Hawaii last year when we got an alert saying that a missile was incoming. It was early on a Saturday morning. Missile incoming, seek shelter immediately. This is not a drill. We just got 15 minutes to seek immediate shelter. Where do you go? Where do you go? How many of you know where you go if you got this message now? Where would you go, Abe Lincoln? Put your head between your knees and kiss my. You what? Say it for the people.
put my head between my knees and kiss my sweet ass goodbye.
That's basically right, though. Right? I mean, really, that's the only option that you have, because there is no shelter. That's what we found in Hawaii. Our loved ones and families, they were looking, where do we go? It says seek immediate shelter, but where do we go? There's nowhere to go, and that's how much our leaders have failed us. This is the hoax that we have, where they've put us in this position, increasing these tensions, increasing this rhetoric. Seek immediate shelter. This is not a drill, but there's nowhere to go. This event in Hawaii was a huge pivotal moment for all of us who went through it, but it's really what made me make the decision to run for president, because it doesn't have to be this way. It does not have to be this way. As president and commander-in-chief, I will end these counterproductive regime change wars, work to end this new Cold War and arms race, calling for a summit immediately between the US and Russia and China to start to de-escalate these tensions and walk us back away from the brink of nuclear war, and instead redirect our limited taxpayer dollars towards actually serving the needs of our people. That's the kind of change that we need to see, a sea change in our foreign policy. It's not going to be easy. There are a lot of entrenched establishment folks in the military-industrial complex that Dwight D. Eisenhower warned us against that are fighting against this with tooth and nail. But there's nothing more powerful than our voices. Go back to his words that he started with. There is nothing more powerful than when we lift our voices, strengthening our democracy and fighting for what is best for our people and for our country. I hope to have your support. I hope you consider standing with me, caucusing with me, so that we can come together and we can make this change happen. Thank you all so much. Aloha! We have a few of our volunteers here. Caitlin is here, Yvette is here. We've got a table there if you'd like to sign up and help. We need your help, we need your support. There's a number of different ways to do that. We'll have some time for some pictures here. I want to start with our musicians, and Abraham Lincoln will be available as well. I want to ask, I can't see anybody in the back. Is my friend Brandon here from Hawaii? Okay, I don't think he's made it yet. He's also an officer in the Hawaii National Guard, and his wife is actually from here in Cedar Rapids. We just did a mission together in Indonesia in August, so he and his wife are going to try to come down, but we'll catch up with them later. Thank you all so much. Thank you. Aloha.
Aloha, everybody. If you'd like a picture with Tulsi, can you please line up right here? So we're gonna have two lines. One single file this way to get into for a picture. I'm sorry, and then you're gonna exit that way. Okay? Thank you.
Where should we stand for?
Stay right in the middle.
Right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll bring people
Post right here.
Thanks again.
Thank you. You're a good hugger. I love your hugs. Thank you. Thank you, Susan. Yes, thank you. Hi, are you live streaming? Awesome. Hey, everybody. Hope you've had fun and joining us tonight. We're about to take some pictures. Aloha.
This is my son, Jay Flirt.
Hi, how are you? Good to meet you. Thanks for coming.
1, 2, 3. Got it. I'm coming in for one too.
Okay, cool.
Same fun.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks for
thank
being here.
1, 2, 3. Got it.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So nice to meet you.
Yes, I'm sorry.
All right, why don't you two go in the middle,
Okay.
and then Abe and I'll take the sides. Get in here.
Thanks.
It's gonna be the coolest campaign pictures ever.
Yeah. I can see your eyes. Whoa. Me? Oh, him. You're good, Abe. 1, 2, 3. If you could put your hat up a little bit. Me? Okay. Let me fix my shirt while I'm at it. Tuck in. Up like that?
Yeah.
There you go.
1, 2, 3. So
Thank you. Great job.
Thank you guys
Thank
so
you.
much.
So
Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
It was nice meeting you.
Thank you. I'm looking at your, what is this?
He has a lot of cool doodlery, we call it.
Doodlery.
Doodlery, yeah.
That's a
And
good
jewelry,
one.
doodlery.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's very cool.
I'm not sure what it means, but
Yeah, it looks
It
cool.
just looks cool.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks again.
Thank you guys so much. That was
So cool you're from
beautiful.
Hawaii. That's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so
Before. I love
too.
it there. I never want to leave when I
I
go.
know. Neither do
We gotta
I.
get you there.
Yes, exactly.
Vacation, maybe our honeymoon.
Yes,
Later.
yes. That's the best choice.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. Thank you.
Go ahead.
How you doing?
doing good.
Thanks for being here again.
Thank you.
1, 2, 3.
Awesome.
Keep up the
Really
fight.
appreciate it. Absolutely. Thank you. Hi.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Good.
Thank you so much.
You
Oh,
have
wow.
to be pro-life, lady.
1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Okay.
So nice to meet you and your family. Thank you very much. Get another one?
One more time. Thank
With
you
the
very
flag.
much.
Got the flag on this one.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, and 3. Got it.
Cool. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Thanks for all you do.
Thank
and all,
you.
And all that you're fighting for.
Thank you very much for your support. Hi. What's your name?
Kara.
Kara. Nice to meet you. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Let's do one
Hi.
way.
Hi.
Just you and her real quick.
Thank you for cooking for us tonight.
Did you have the black bean chili?
I don't know what I had, but it was
Okay.
really good. Oh, just us? All right.
Let's try one here. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Got it. And then Dad, go ahead.
Awesome.
1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
coming.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for being here. Good night, Kira.
You got most of the pictures out done on the first
Cool.
front end.
Yeah, us
Um,
exactly. Did we get a picture? Let's get a picture with the flag in the background. I think that's important.